You are 15 when you see your first Harley. Not in a magazine, not on a television screen, in person. A line of them tearing through your Northern California town like rolling thunder wrapped in leather and chrome. The sound shakes you to your ribs. The men riding them look like they were carved out of something harder than the asphalt. You're standing on a curb, holding a bag of groceries for a mother who drinks and a stepfather who hits. And as you watch those bikes pass, you feel something you've never felt in that house. You feel safe. Not protected, not comfortable, but safe in the way that belonging to something bigger than yourself makes you safe. You drop the groceries on the pavement and follow the sound. You follow it for the next 40 years. At 18, you prospect. For those who don't know, prospecting for the Hells Angels is a 12 to 18-month audition where you are simultaneously a servant, a punching bag, a chauffeur, a janitor, and a living loyalty test. You carry the bikes, you guard the door, you take the beatings without complaint. You do whatever any patched member tells you to do, no matter how degrading, and you say thank you afterward, because the thank you is the whole point. The patch isn't awarded to the strong, it's given to the ones who endure. And so, you endure. On a Saturday night in a clubhouse in Oakland, they vote you in unanimously. They hand you the death head patch, and you sew it onto your cut with your own hands, because that is the tradition. Your hands are shaking. Not from fear, but from that specific tremble that hits when something you've wanted for so long finally becomes real. You put on that cut and look in the mirror, and for the first time in your life, the person looking back has an identity that wasn't assigned by a drinking mother or a violent stepfather. You chose this. This chose you. The patch is the first thing you have ever owned that no one can take from you. Or so you believe. The brothers become everything. Reno is your road captain, a 6-foot 4-inch Viking with a red beard and a laugh that can shake windows. He'd ride through a hurricane if you asked him and complain about the rain after. Tommy is your sergeant-at-arms, quiet, surgical, built like a safe with legs. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, the room listens because every word has been weighed before it leaves his mouth. Dex is your vice president, the smartest man at the table, the one who challenges you when you're wrong and backs you when you're right, and always knows the difference. Coyote is the wild card, unpredictable, dangerous, brilliant in a way that makes you nervous. Priest is the oldest member, a Vietnam vet who found the club when the country threw him away, and who treats every brother like a son he's trying to keep alive this time. These men are your family, not metaphorically. They are the family your blood failed to be. You eat together, you ride together, you bleed together. You sit at church every Wednesday night at a table with 12 chairs, and every chair is full, and every man in every chair would die for the man next to him. That is not an exaggeration. 3 of them will eventually prove it. You become president at 29, the youngest in the chapter's history. You run the table with a mix of strategic intelligence and controlled violence that earns you a reputation across every charter in the country. Other chapters call your chapter the War Room because when you show up, someone's world is about to change. You build the club's operations into a machine, protection routes, territory management, distribution networks, legitimate business fronts. You apply the same organizational focus to the club that a CEO applies to a company, except your quarterly earnings are measured in respect, and your HR disputes end in the emergency room. For 15 years, you are untouchable. The club is family, the road is church, the patch is gospel. Then the road starts collecting. Coyote goes first. A high-speed chase on Interstate 5 after a deal goes sideways. He tries to outrun a police helicopter on a motorcycle, which is the most Coyote thing imaginable. The bike goes down at 130 miles per hour. They identify him by his dental records because there isn't enough left for anything else. You arrive to the spot where it happened, and there's nothing there. Just asphalt and a scrape mark that'll be gone after the next rain. A man that loud shouldn't disappear that quietly, but the road doesn't care about volume. It only takes. Priest holds on longer than anyone expected. He's 67 when the cancer finds him. Agent Orange from a war the government has spent 50 years pretending didn't poison its own soldiers. He dies in a VA hospital that smells like bleach and indifference. You sit with him on the last night. He's barely conscious, but he grabs your hand and says something you'll carry forever. He says, The club was the only country that never betrayed me. You ride his casket to the cemetery on the back of a flatbed truck with 40 bikes behind you. It's the most beautiful and the most terrible thing you've ever been part of. And then comes Dex, your vice president, your closest brother, the smartest man at the table. A conflict erupts over a territory alliance with another charter. You want to push into new ground. Dex says it's a mistake. He lays out the reasons calmly, mathematically, the way Dex does everything. You put it to a vote at church. Dex votes against you. It's the first time in 20 years anyone at your table has said no. Not because they're afraid, but because Dex respects you enough to tell you you're wrong. Something breaks inside you that you don't have the vocabulary for. You don't hear disagreement, you hear betrayal. Because in the world you built, loyalty and obedience are the exact same word. And Dex just proved they're not. You strip his patch. You exile him from the chapter. You erase the one man who loved you enough to be honest with you. He doesn't fight it. He doesn't beg. He walks out of church, leaving his cut on the table, folded neatly with the death head facing up. He looks at you one last time. Not with anger, but with grief. Like he's attending a funeral you don't yet know is yours. 2 years later, the alliance collapses exactly the way he said it would. He was right. You were wrong. But by then, the damage is done. He's gone. And you sit at the head of church, looking at his empty chair, realizing that the scariest thing in the world isn't a man who disagrees with you. It's a room full of men who don't. Reno goes next. A RICO indictment sweeps through the chapter. The feds have been building the case for 3 years. Reno faces 25 years. They offer him a deal, testify against you, and serve 5. He refuses. He doesn't even consider it. The man who would ride through a hurricane for you rides into a 25-year sentence without blinking. He dies in a federal facility in Victorville. 14 years in. Heart attack in the cafeteria. They call you from the prison phone. A guard's voice. Bored. Clinical. He delivers the news the way a clerk reads an invoice. The Viking who shook windows with his laugh is gone. And the notification sounds like a billing statement. Tommy is the last to go. He doesn't die. He doesn't get arrested. He just disappears. One morning, his bike is in the clubhouse, but he's not. No note, no forwarding address, no phone call. You search for 2 years. Nothing. A man who spent 30 years being the most reliable person in your life simply evaporates. You never find out why. You never get closure. And the absence of an ending is worse than any ending could be. A death you can grieve. A disappearance just echoes forever. And then there's your son. His name is Jake. He's the thing you never talk about at church. The life that exists on the other side of the patch. His mother left when he was 3 because she couldn't raise a child inside a war zone, which is a reasonable position you refused to accept at the time. Jake grew up seeing you on weekends. That became monthly. That became holidays. That became nothing. He hated the club. Not because of the violence or the crime, but because of the absence. Every Wednesday night, you sat at church with 12 brothers while your son ate dinner alone. Every road trip was a week he didn't have a father. Every time the club called, you answered. Every time he called, you were busy. You chose the patch over the boy. Not once. Every single day for 18 years. He left at 18, changed his last name, and vanished from your world the way Tommy vanished. Except Jake left on purpose. And somehow, that's worse. You track him down through a private investigator 5 years ago. He's a high school teacher in a small town in Oregon. He has a wife, 2 kids, a house with a garden, and a fence that isn't there to keep anyone out. It's just a fence. He built the life you never could. The quiet one. The normal one. The one that doesn't require a patch or a gun or a code. Your last church is on a Wednesday. You're 58. The table has 12 chairs. You sit at the head and look at every seat. Each one has been refilled 2, 3, 4 times. The men sitting in them now are young, hungry, loyal, and completely unaware of who used to occupy their chair. You hand the gavel to the new president. He's 29. Your age when you took it. He grins and says he'll make the club proud. You look at him and see yourself 40 years ago, standing on a curb following the sound of something bigger. You want to tell him what it costs. You want to read the names of every man who sat in every chair and describe how the chair became empty. But you don't, because the machine needs believers, and the truth would break the spell. So you shake his hand, you walk out, the door closes. You hear them laughing inside, the same sound you heard 40 years ago in this same room before the room started taking them. You ride to Oregon, 8 hours on the highway. Just you, the engine, the road, and the weight. You pull up to his house at dusk. The lights are on. Through the window, you can see Jake setting the table for dinner. His wife is in the kitchen. His daughter, maybe 8 years old, is drawing at the table. You walk to the door. You knock. He opens it. He doesn't slam it. He just stands there looking at you the way you look at something you buried a long time ago that just dug itself up. You ask if you can come in. He steps aside. You sit at his kitchen table. The wood is warm. The house smells like dinner and laundry soap and something you can't name because you've never lived anywhere that smelled like this. His daughter looks up from her drawing. She stares at you with huge brown eyes and asks the question that ends your life more completely than any bullet ever could. She asks, "Daddy, who is that?" Jake looks at you. There's no anger in his face, no hatred, just something worse. Distance. The permanent, irreversible distance of a man who processed his grief decades ago and has nothing left to feel. He rests a hand on his daughter's head and says 2 words. He's nobody. You nod. You stand up. You walk to the door. You don't argue, because there's nothing to argue with. He's right. In every room that matters, in every house that smells like this, at every kitchen table where a child draws while dinner cooks, you are nobody. You were somebody at church. You were somebody on the road. You were somebody to 12 brothers in 12 chairs who are gone now. Every last one of them. And the chairs don't remember their names. And the table doesn't remember your voice. And the patch on your back is a dead man's face sewn onto leather that's older than most of the men who still wear it. You get on your bike, and the engine starts. The sound used to feel like power. Now it just feels like noise. You ride into the dark on a highway that doesn't end, and doesn't care, and doesn't remember a single man who ever traveled it. You had the club. You had the code. You had the patch. You had 12 brothers who would die for you. And some of them did. And you traded the one person who just wanted a father for a table that's already forgotten you were there. That wraps it up for today. The story you just heard is fiction. But somewhere right now, a kid is standing on a curb watching something loud and powerful roll past and thinking, "That's where I belong." And maybe it is. But the price of belonging to the road is everything that happens when the engine stops. If this one hit different, drop a comment and tell me which empty chair got you. I've got more stories like this coming, so hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next.